Lisbeth Salander can expose a billionaire, rescue a man from a serial killer, and make a predator terrified of his own front door. But the film saves her most dangerous decision for the final 2 minutes. She chooses to trust someone. That is why The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo is not really about a woman becoming powerful. Lisbeth is powerful from the beginning. It is about a woman fighting the identity that other people have written for her. The police files call her violent. The state calls her incompetent. Men call her strange, useful, or disposable. The hidden conflict is simple. Everyone wants to define Lisbeth before she can define herself. And the ending proves that her greatest enemy is not Björman, Martin, or Wennerstrom. It is the belief that control is the only form of safety. To see that, start with the first thing taken from her, authorship over her own life. When Lisbeth meets her new guardian, he does not study the person in front of him. He reads a file. Every arrest, every institution, and every angry reaction becomes evidence that she cannot be trusted with herself. The trap is perfect. If she stays quiet, the system controls her. If she becomes angry, her anger proves the system was right. Her past is not being used to understand her. It is being used to imprison her in advance. The language of guardianship makes that control sound protective. But protection without consent is only ownership wearing a polite name. Björman immediately turns that legal power into personal power. He controls her money, demands receipts, and makes basic survival depend on obedience. The film is showing more than one corrupt man. It is showing how paperwork can become a weapon. When Lisbeth goes to his apartment, she is not naive. She knows the situation is dangerous. But knowing danger exists is not the same as having a safe way out of it. Her rent and food are locked behind his signature. The film does not frame what follows as a sudden encounter with evil. Björman has been protected by a structure that already treats Lisbeth as unreliable. He expects the official story to belong to him. Lisbeth's answer is not simply revenge. First, she creates evidence. The hidden camera matters because it reverses the balance of credibility. Björman has a title. Lisbeth has proof. Then she writes the terms of her own future. She regains access to her money, forces false meetings onto the official record, and makes sure the recording will survive even if she does not. This is the pattern that defines her. Other people use institutions, wealth, and politeness to hide violence. Lisbeth uses information to make hidden violence impossible to deny. She understands that power does not begin with physical strength. It begins with deciding which version of reality other people are forced to confront. But the scene is meant to disturb us. She does not merely escape Björman, she dominates and marks him. The film refuses to turn survival into something clean, gentle, or morally comfortable. That discomfort matters because a weaker film would present Lisbeth as a perfect avenger. Fincher does something harder. He shows a survivor whose methods were shaped by the same world she is fighting. Mikael first meets Lisbeth through another report. He learns that she invaded his privacy, mapped his finances, and understood his relationships better than his closest friends did. Yet his response is different. He does not call her broken. He asks for her help. More importantly, the case is not described as an abstract puzzle. He asks her to help catch a killer of women. That difference is crucial. Mikael is not perfect, but he treats her ability as something she owns. He invites her into the investigation instead of trying to manage her. That phrase changes the investigation. Lisbeth does not see a clever sequence of Bible verses. She sees women whose pain was converted into forgotten paperwork. The case is personal without ever becoming sentimental. Her skill is not magic. She searches, compares, travels, asks direct questions, and notices what other investigators dismissed. She is effective because she refuses the social rituals that make everyone else slow down. The Vanger men hide behind respectability. Their homes are clean, their jobs are respectable. Their violence survives because people are trained to confuse good manners with goodness. Martin explains the mechanism himself. Victims sense danger, but they fear appearing rude. They walk back into the house because politeness feels safer than trusting instinct. Martin does not rely only on force. He relies on the victim questioning her own alarm long enough for him to close the door. Lisbeth is the opposite of that conditioning. She does not smile to make danger comfortable. She does not protect a man's dignity at the cost of her own safety. Her refusal to perform politeness becomes a survival skill. This is why Harriet is more than the answer to a mystery. She is Lisbeth's mirror. Both girls are harmed by fathers or guardians. Both are ignored by people who should have protected them. Harriet survives by disappearing. She leaves her name, her family, and her history behind. Escape saves her body, but it also forces her to live as someone the world believes is dead. Lisbeth chooses another strategy. She stays visible enough to fight, but unreadable enough to resist possession. Her clothes, tattoos, silence, and aggression become armor that she controls. The armor is not merely style, it is authorship. For once, every visible sign attached to Lisbeth is a sign she chose for herself. The film then reveals the oldest wound. At 12, Lisbeth tried to kill her father by setting him on fire. The state remembered the violence. It forgot to ask what kind of life could produce it. That is the moral fault line of the entire film. Institutions record her reaction with perfect detail, while the abuse that caused it becomes background noise. The official file preserves the explosion and erases the fuse. That selective memory allows the system to describe her as the original problem. Cause disappears, reaction remains, and punishment begins to look reasonable. When Mikael enters Martin's house, he makes the mistake Martin describes. He senses danger, but walks inside anyway. His politeness becomes a trap. Lisbeth does not wait for permission, procedure, or certainty. She follows the evidence, reaches the basement, and interrupts the story Martin has repeated for years. Her rescue of Mikael is not a romantic gesture. It is the film's clearest reversal. The woman classified as incapable becomes the only person capable of acting when the respectable man is helpless. Then she asks whether she may kill Martin. The question is chilling because it exposes both her strength and her damage. For Lisbeth, stopping danger and destroying danger have almost become the same action. So the strongest counter-argument is obvious. Maybe Lisbeth has not escaped the role of victim. Maybe she has simply built an identity around never being powerless again. She hacks people, threatens them, controls them, and sometimes treats intimacy like another system to penetrate. Her victories are real, but they do not automatically make her free. The film never excuses her methods. It asks us to understand the logic behind them. Control works. Control keeps her alive. The problem is that control cannot create trust. The same strategy that defeats predators can also turn every relationship into a threat assessment. If vulnerability always feels like surrender, survival becomes another kind of prison. After the murder case, Lisbeth destroys Wennerstrom with the same weapon she used against Bierman: information. She crosses borders, identities, bank accounts, and legal systems as if they are locked doors waiting to be opened. She gives Mikael the truth that restores his career. She also takes money from a criminal empire. On every practical level, she wins. The woman declared unable to manage her own finances moves billions. But her quietest achievement is not financial. At Palmgren's bedside, she says she has made a friend. For Lisbeth, that sentence is more vulnerable than any confession about violence. She buys Mikael a gift. That ordinary act matters because it cannot be protected by blackmail, encryption, or surveillance. A gift gives another person the power to accept, misunderstand, or reject what it means. She cannot test the gesture in advance. She cannot guarantee the response. For the first time, the risk is emotional rather than tactical. Then she sees Mikael with Erica. Nothing has been stolen from her. No law has failed her. No predator has trapped her. She is simply hurt, and there is no enemy she can punish to make the feeling disappear. She throws the gift away and rides into the night. On the surface, this looks like another retreat into armor. But the gift existed. She allowed herself to imagine a future in which someone might know her and stay. Throwing it away does not erase that moment of openness. It proves the armor opened, however briefly, and that closing it again now costs her something. That is the final paradox. Lisbeth can survive being watched, judged, attacked, and underestimated. What terrifies her is being seen without a weapon in her hand. She refuses to stay a victim not because nothing can hurt her, but because she refuses to let pain become someone else's definition of her. She turns records into evidence, rage into action, and isolation into a choice. Still, the ending leaves the choice unfinished. Armor can stop a predator. It cannot build a relationship. Control can protect a life. It cannot make that life feel shared. So what is Lisbeth's bravest act? Punishing the men who hurt her, or buying the gift she never gets to give? And can she ever trust someone without feeling that she has surrendered control?